So we'll start here. In the pest control niche, there are 25 unique entity variants for the seed terms. So how many H2s should we create on the location page to use each variant? You don't need to use each variant. That about it. Sorry, guys. Hold on. I had a call coming through. There, you don't need to use each variant. What I recommend is that don't try to squeeze or stuff a whole bunch of H2s into the page just so that you can use each of the variants for the pest control term, right? What is he talking about? So if you guys want me to kind of make sure that you understand the full context here. Pest control is an entity, right? It has its own page on Wikipedia. And so there are entity variants, which are just different synonyms that can be used interchangeably with the official term, at least according to Wikipedia, because they all mean the same thing. They're synonyms, okay? They can be used interchangeably with this term here, and they mean the same thing. So if we go to tools, what links here? Thanks to one of my members of the mastermind, or one of our members at the mastermind named Nolan, who's in the UK. He's the one that showed me this trick. It was my favorite SEO trick of 2024. I use it all the time. But here you can see that these are all the variants of the term pest control, and they all redirect to this pest control entity page. If that makes sense. And so it doesn't matter. It's not that you have to use all these variants. What I'm saying is, so don't try to force more content onto the page just so that you can use more entity variants. Again, that's what SEOs have been doing when it was more of a keyword-based algorithm, and a lot of that stuff mattered. And what I found at local, at least for most areas, most locations, most competition levels that we typically work in, that's completely unnecessary. So all you should do is be aware of the entity variants and use them when you are optimizing the main optimization elements of the page. That's it. What are the main optimization elements of the page? I've talked about this, almost every week. But it starts with the URL. It's always the URL is the starting point, guys. Do you understand? That is how Google crawls the web, and that's how large language models crawl the web and ingest content. It's through URLs. So if anybody tells you that link building isn't important and that links are losing value, are diminishing in value as an overall part of SEO and everything, they're wrong, because that is how the large language models and Google and the search engines and everything crawls the web, is through links. So links are the page URL is the starting point. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here, are the main optimization elements of the page. URL is number one. Titles are number two, but there's two titles, SEO title and the H1. Because an H1 is a page or post title. The SEO title is the meta title, right? Do you understand? So you've got now the URL titles. Now you have headings, which are H2s. Then you have subheadings, which are H3s, 4s, 5s, etc. Then you have internal links and media, right? So you've got a total of like 6 basically main optimization elements that you can squeeze entity variants into. That's what I'm talking about. And so I'm not saying it, and I never once have I ever said that you should try to use every entity variant. I've never said that. I swear, if anybody can find where I said that in some video, then please bring it to my attention, and I'll give you free membership to the mastermind for a quarter. Okay? I promise you're not going to find that, because I've never said that, because you would be way over optimizing the page and stuffing it with a bunch of headings that are unnecessary. You don't need to do that. Make the page relevant and proper to convey what the products or services are about. And if it's a location page, because that's what he's asking about here, I keep the location pages very scarce with content, because the location pages don't need to have a lot of content. The location pages should be user-friendly to help the users navigate and find the information that they're looking for, or navigate to the section of the site that has the information that they're looking for. Remember, it's the location pages that should be ranking, guys, for any search query with local intent. It's not the home page. It's not the service pages that should be ranking. It's the location page that should be ranking for a query with local intent. If it is a clear local intent search query, and Google's very clear about it, right? Then the location page is what should rank, not the service page, not the home page. So there's no reason for the location page just to have a wall of text with 3,000 words of content, because all the location page needs is proper SEO title, a restatement of the SEO title in the H1 using entity variants, back to the original question, then an H2 that introduces the services that are available at that location or in that area. Do you understand? So you don't need to have, so an H2 statement then again restates these are this company's services in this location, and you can use entity variants for the locations as well. Let me give you an example. Okay, so let's just say, I don't know, let's just pick one. I'm going to Roanoke, Virginia this weekend because my nephew is graduating college from Roanoke College. And so we're going to go look at Roanoke, Virginia Wikipedia. I just pulled that out of the air. All right, so if we go take a look at this as an example, we have Roanoke, Virginia is the official entity term for the location. If we click on tools, what links here? Hide transclusions and hide links. You could find other entity variants. I don't really care about those though, because when I'm talking about providing entity variants for a location, unless it's a region, so like for example, Roanoke Valley is a region, or like the Charlottesville metropolitan area, you could reference that. Typically look at the entity variants that are official entity variants and look at, a lot of the times you'll see like greater Charlottesville or something like that. And so you can use those types of variants if you want. But when you're talking about a standard city, state type of a location modifier, this is how I do it, right? I do one like that, one like this, and then just one with just Roanoke. So that's 3 entity variants for the same location, right? And so what I'm saying is, if you think about it, what I would do is I would say, pest control, where I would put the company name first. So let's say Benner's Pest Control, right? Or Benner's Exterminators. Let's use that. Benner's Exterminators is the name of my company. So the location page then, and I'll put this in just to give you guys an example. I would say Benner's Exterminators. Then I would do pest control, because that would be the primary. I would do pest control service because that's the primary Google business category, pest control service, right? And then I would have Roanoke, Virginia. I like to spell it out in the SEO title. So this would be the SEO title. I'm getting to a point here, guys. I swear to God. All right. So this is the SEO title. And then what I would do is in the H1, the H1 is another title. There's 2 titles on the page, SEO title, or 2 titles for the page, the SEO title and the H1. Okay. So the H1, which is the page or post title. So let me go ahead and add that here, page or post title. Okay. Then what I do is a variant of, so it's restating the semantic triple statement that the SEO title was formed after, right? So we used an entity association statement in the SEO title, which is who is this company? What do they do? Where do they do it? Benner's Exterminators is a pest control service that's in Roanoke, Virginia, in this case, because it's a location page, right? So then the SEO title, the H1, which is the page or post title, is a restatement. You do not need to reference the brand again. You can, it's optional, but it's not needed because that's been established. It's been established because it's in the SEO title and this page or post is published on the branded domain. Doesn't matter whether the domain is bennersexterminators.com or not. It means it's the domain associated with that brand. So that's why I say branded domain. It could be an exact match. It could be pestcontrolroanoke.com. It doesn't matter. It's the branded domain. You understand? Because the page or post title is a page or post that is published onto that domain that is associated with that brand. Do you get it? So again, it's associations. So we have an entity association or semantic triple statement here that says this is who the business is, this is what they do, this is where they do it. So then in the H1, you can then restate the product or service entity and the location entity, right? And so, for example, I might say something like Roanoke's. Roanoke, I always have to think about spelling that. Top, and let's just take a look at these variants here. And we'll say pest exterminators or pest extermination service. And the reason I'm going to say that is because you can see that I have I try not to duplicate terms, guys, when possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but since I have exterminators already in the brand name, which was, again, you can restate the brand name in the H1. That's not a problem, but it's not necessary. That's optional. It's a preference thing. Okay, but so I'm going to say Roanoke's Top Pest Extermination Service, right? So that's a variant of exterminator. It's extermination service, right? And so, and pest extermination service is a variant of pest control service. So you see what I'm saying? Now we've got an entity variant for the location entity, and we've got an entity variant for the service, right? Okay, so then what I would do is an H2. The H2 that says, and I could use, you can restate the brand here if you'd like, but Benner's Exterminators Services in Roanoke, comma, VA this time, right? You guys understand? Now we've got, again, we've got now a reference to the brand, or you could use another, you could say insect control services. Let's do that because I see insect control right there if you guys see it. So I'm just showing you guys that you can have different formats here. But do you understand now, once again, what are we doing? Insect control services, which is an entity variant for pest control, right? In Roanoke, VA, not VQ. I don't even know VQ is in a state. So anyway, insect control services in Roanoke, VA. And then this is where the H3s, H3 anchor text links would then reference and link to each of the supporting or the service pages, right? So in the pest control industry, they typically, what I recommend is that they have a separate page for each pest control service, right? So one of them could be, I don't know, cockroach control, or let's just say roach control, right? Roach control. Or God damn it, I can never talk and type. For years, I've had trouble doing that. I don't know why. Roach control. Another one could be, snake control, right? Spider control. Termite, right? Termites. You could add that, whatever. So the point that I'm trying to make is these are now H3s. And think about the hierarchy of the page now, guys. You have the SEO title, which is a semantic triple statement or an entity association statement, which is right after, remember, example. See, look, I can never talk and type properly. And remember, the URL is the first touch point, right? So I'm just going to put first touch point. So you don't want to over optimize that either, okay? Which I still see a lot of SEOs doing. So the SEO title, semantic triple statement, entity association statement. The H1 restates the service and location entities. Then the H2 restates or supports what the SEO title and the H1 say. And it's saying these are the insect control services available in Roanoke, Virginia. And again, entity variant for the location. And then now we have H3s that are going to internally link H3 anchor text links, anchor tags, right? That are going to link directly to the service pages that then are thoroughly optimized for what that service is, how it's delivered, what they can expect, what it costs, frequently asked questions, all of that. That's where the content goes. The content shouldn't be the homepage, and it shouldn't be the location pages. The content should be on the service pages, which thoroughly describes that service, how it's delivered, what it costs, frequently asked questions, all the stuff that thoroughly describes what that service is to not only Google, but to a visitor. Now, the visitor, when a human goes to Google and searches for pest control service near me, and they're located in Roanoke, Virginia, then the Roanoke page should rank. And the page does not need to have a wall of text or, as the question asked, 25 H2s that are using every one of these entity variants for pest control. None of that is necessary. You can keep the location pages down to who is this business? How do I contact them or ask them to contact me? And what services are available at this location or in this area? And that's it. That's all the page needs, guys. I'm serious. You can then also have an FAQ section, right? If you'd like, that are questions and answers specific to that to that location, right? So you can have FAQs. I'm not saying that that's all the page should have, but I'm saying those are the essentials. And there now you have all of, think about that, guys. If remember, like, let's take a look at this. I just saw bat removal, right? So let's say that, and there's also rodent control, right? Rodent control is actually a subtopic of pest control. I think of pest control as insect control, but pest control includes rodent control. Do you understand? And so what I'm saying is, now, if you think about how this page is structured, guys, now you have H3s that are supporting or support essentially the respective H2, right? That says these are the services available. And now this is associating each one of these individual services with this specific location. And on the service pages, right, you would have the URL, the SEO title, which in the service pages, I usually lead with the brand and, or excuse me, lead with the service instead of the brand. And we omit any location mention in the SEO title because that service should be available to all locations within the service area. So why would you add location modifier to the SEO title? If you wanted to add a location modifier to the SEO title, it would be a broad location entity that is all inclusive of the individual cities, towns, census designated places, unincorporated communities, etc., that are within the service area. Roanoke is a specific municipality, right? It's a specific city. And so therefore Roanoke would have its own page. But what I'm saying is, like, if you go take a look at, and again, we'll just come back to, if we go to Roanoke, Virginia, we'll see that Roanoke, Virginia is an independent city of Virginia. It's in the Southwest Virginia, which is a very large region. So I would narrow that. I wouldn't want to use Southwest Virginia unless the company actually served all of the entirety of Southwest Virginia, but that's unlikely. But then what you could do is, like, again, here's a smaller region called the Roanoke Valley, right? So this is a region. I don't know if it's going to show where it is, but this is the region that includes certain counties, right? So here's another one called the Roanoke metropolitan area, right? Again, if you click on tools, what links here, hide trend exclusions and hide links, and click go, you'll see that there's the different names that could be used for the Roanoke metropolitan area. Roanoke Valley is another region that's, I think, a little bit smaller than the metropolitan area. So it just depends on, and if you read through here, it tells you which ones are which and which counties are included in this Roanoke Valley. If you go back over to the Roanoke metropolitan area, which is basically Greater Roanoke, you can also look at the communities here, and you can see the counties that make up that region, the independent cities, the places. These are different cities and towns and unincorporated communities, etc. So now you can, again, whatever is the most appropriate for the business, you want to reference that as the broad location entity that is all inclusive of the areas that they serve within their service area. So on a service page, you should either omit, which is my preference, entirely the SEO title. So let's just say we're going to go with roach control, right? So I like to lead with the service title in for service pages, and then I would do the brand, so Benner's Exterminators, and I would omit any mention of the location modifier, right? Then in the H1, remember, you restate what the SEO title says, but in this case, we can omit the brand because it's already been established. Again, it's a preference thing. You can add that to the H1 if you'd like. But what I would do is say something like, let's just go with Roanoke Valley again, just because I know that one. So let's say Roanoke Valley's top roach. And I would go look at roach or cockroach or whatever and see if I could find some other, and maybe you call it a cockroach here. I don't know. And I don't know if that's supposed to be one word or two words, to be honest with you. Roanoke Valley's top cockroach control service, right? So now we have an entity variant. We've got the broad location entity being referenced in the H1 of the service page. The service, now we've got an H2 that is going to say, you're going to have other H2s possibly on the page that are going to be more thorough about how it's delivered, how the service is delivered, what they can expect, what the cost of it is, frequently asked questions, how to prevent cockroaches or roaches from infestations. Like, all of that stuff can be on the service page because that is what should thoroughly describe the service. But do you guys understand why we do this? Why the service pages should be thoroughly optimized with all that detail, but the location pages shouldn't? Because what do we see right now, currently, still to this day, and I see it every single week, multiple times per week, because I'm auditing or doing competitive link analysis reports every single day for my white label clients, which are SEO agencies and professionals that that have local business clients, right? And so I'm all the time reviewing other SEOs' work. And what I see all the time, I see these location pages with these walls of text where roach control has its own H2 and paragraphs of text. Snake control has its own H2 and paragraph, and that's for one city. And then every single one of the cities in that entire service area has its own page with that much text. What is the purpose of that? How is that useful to anybody? It's not helpful to Google because it requires a lot more crawl budget. It's harder for Google to the site's not efficient anymore. It's bloated. It's full. It's not useful to the visitors because the visitors, why do they need all of that? When the location page should be, look, if somebody searches for pest control near me and they're in Roanoke, Virginia, and your location page ranks, They got the answer to what they were searching for. It's a pest control company. This is who we are, this is what we do, and this is where we do it. So yes, you're in the right place, consumer. Here's how to contact us or request that we contact you. And here are the services, the specific services that we provide in this area. Choose your poison, choose your own adventure. Which one is the most relevant? And then they click through to that, and that's where they get all the information about that particular service. It doesn't have to be repeated on every single location page. What is the purpose of that? There's no reason to repeat that on every location page. All you need is an internal link to the one page that is thoroughly optimized for that specific service. And then that creates the associations between the location and all of the services that are available at that location. And then on the service page, it creates the association between that specific service and all of the locations that that's available to. So I'm just going to use roach extermination this time as an example. Roach extermination services, service areas is what I like to put. Service areas and then I'll put Roanoke Valley again, right? And I probably would use, if there's entity variants for that, which we could probably go look at very quickly. There might not be for this, but we'll look. No, there's none. So that's fine. You could, if there's no variance, you don't need to use variance. Okay. Roach extermination service areas in Roanoke Valley. And then this is where, sorry, you're going to have, and yeah, I could put an indent there. That would actually probably be a little bit helpful. That's what I meant to do. All right, right there. So we're going to do H3 and we're going to say, now we're going to say Roanoke, right? And then, God damn it. Let's just pick another one. Salem. Salem's another one that's going to be in that area, right? Salem, Virginia. So we'll pick that one. Another one would be Hollins, Virginia, right? So the point is, you guys understand what we're doing here and why this is efficient? Because again, this particular service now, which is the primary Google business category, which all of these are supporting services that fall under this service category. Do you get it? So the location page should be optimized for the primary service category, in my opinion. That's how I like to do it. And then the H1 is going to restate it using the top level topic term, which is the entity term from Wikipedia, right? Then the H2s are going to say, using another variant of that entity term and Google business category, because that Google business category was created from the entity terms anyways. And we're saying these are the specific services that relate to pest control that are available in this particular city. And this creates the association between each of these and this city. So you don't need to have separate pages for roach control Roanoke, snake control Roanoke. You also don't need to have an H2 with paragraphs of text for each one of those either. Do you get what I'm saying? Because again, that is completely unnecessary. You'd be wasting your time publishing a shit ton of content that is duplicate, redundant content that nobody's reading, that Google doesn't like, and it makes it harder for the visitors to get to what it is that they were searching for, right? Again, if you just make it easy, the location pages should be very basic, in my opinion, that satisfies the query. Am I in the right place? Who is this company? How do I contact them? And what services are available in my area? Which should be the page that they came in on. And then it links directly to the page. And then on the service page, again, it's associating this specific service now with each of these locations. So, all right, so it's a reciprocal link between location pages and service pages and vice versa. Okay, they always link back and forth to each other, but it's super efficient that way. Think about it. When you build a link to this page here, guys, what happens? All the link equity and relevance flows through the internal links to the specific service pages. What happens when the link equity flows to each one of these service pages? It flows back to all of the relevant location pages. So you're creating internal link wheels within the site. You understand? So it's much more efficient for link building too. So under traditional old school tactics that I still see SEOs doing every single day, you would have a separate page for roach control Roanoke, snake control Roanoke, spider control Roanoke. Then you would have one for roach control Salem, snake control Salem, spider control Salem, right? And now think about all those link building targets that you've just created and the inefficiency of the site for Google to crawl, and what you've done for you've created a ton of additional work for yourself. You're going to dilute the effectiveness of links. You're going to increase crawl resistance because the site's no longer efficient. There's redundancy. Helpful content update specifically punishes stuff like that. So Why? Why why do SEOs still do that? I still see that all the time, daily, almost daily, because I do an audit or a competitive link analysis almost every day. And it's just unbelievable to me that people are still optimizing that way. And here's the thing, guys. I sell white label link building services to other SEO professionals. Okay. And whenever I get onto a sales call, um, you know, whenever I talk about links, and I always get to the point where, like, listen, when you submit a campaign to me, or to semantic links, we are assuming that the on page is done fairly decently. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to be done fairly decently. And at that point of the sales conversation with other SEO professionals, about 80% out of the time, maybe 60 to 80%, 6 to 8 out of 10 prospects or contacts that I'm on a sales call with, when I get to the part where I say, as long as your on page is fairly decent, you should get decent results from these links within, the amount of time that I specify based upon the competitive link analysis report. And that's where 6 to 8 out of 10 SEOs will say, oh, well, our on page is pretty solid. We're really good at on page. I hear that time and again. And then they submit the campaigns, and I go look at the on page, and I start seeing stuff like what I just described. And then that's when I'll recommend to them, hey, get a full SEO audit, man, because you're using very outdated tactics. I promise you, campaign is not going to respond properly to these links, or at least not as well as it could if you were to improve the on-page optimization a bit, get rid of some of this redundancy, this over-optimization, these excessive crawl resistance. Thank you, Cecilia. She's the one that gave me that term, and I love that term as well. But again, I always bring that up because it's not because I'm trying to call them out, guys. It's because the SEOs are out there telling their clients, pitching their services as, we're the best. We're awesome. We can get you outstanding results in local search. And then they submit a campaign to me where there's keyword times city for every keyword times every city. The location pages have walls of text, all of that. And it's not going to perform well that way. I can tell you that for sure. Okay. So to answer your question, you don't need to use all those entity variants, whose iPhone, especially for location pages. Stick down to what is most appropriate that you want to convey to Google and to the visitor, the human, right, the consumer. The headings, so the main optimization elements of the page should be optimized for SEO, in my opinion. And the content, the paragraph text between headings and subheadings, should be optimized for converting the visitor into whatever conversion goal you want them to take. Submit a form, make a phone call, opt in, make a purchase, whatever the conversion goal of the page is, that's what the paragraph text should be optimized for, to convert the visitor into whatever it is that you want them to do. The main optimization elements of the page should be optimized for SEO, in my opinion. Okay. Great question. I hope that was helpful. Moving on. Next one, I spent a lot of time on that. I'm sorry.